Hi guys, welcome back. This is my second project that I am doing for Kitaholic Kits for the month of April using the stunning kit that we got this month. Now, this is a layout of a photo shoot that I did for a friend. I got to be dressed up in a wedding dress and I had my makeup done, and then Justin and I had to pretend to get married again, which was really fun. Now, I am doing a lot of mixed media because we got this amazing Vicky Bruton mixed media paper. So I was like, of course, I want to completely go crazy with this mixed media paper, which can take so much water. It is incredible. I'm also using this brush that we got in the kit, and I started by kind of stippling that on, but then I thought down the track that really I'm not going to like the effect. I wanted it to be a bit brighter, so I do switch to my fingers down the track, but I do really like how that brush applies the paint. So if you wanted something more subtle, it would be perfect. I am actually using my Caran d'Ache Neo colors, which are just watercolor crayons, and they melt away. It's so nice. Not if you put them directly on the paper, although that particular smudge does kind of disappear down the track as well. So they do work, but yeah, they are just amazing to play with. They're a bit pricey, but they're so nice for mixed media. They're more of an art supply, and I tend to use them more as an art supply, but I still really like them. Once I applied a lot of water and colour, I decided to dry it off with my little towel there, and then I'm going to add some more intense color just using my finger. So I'm slowly building up the color, being very careful not to mix the blues and the yellows because that'll create green, and I didn't want that. I don't mind if there was a little bit of green, but I really wanted to make sure that I don't mix it too much. So what I do is I try to keep them quite separate, then I dry, and then I reapply again. So here I am really just having fun going into the background with these crayons, spraying more water, mixing it all out using my fingers. I was really in the mood to play with colors and these amazing crayons, and I was just really having fun. Like, I didn't actually think too much about the end product. I obviously knew what colors I wanted to create, but I just thought I'm going to have fun with it, see what I can come up with, and just, enjoy myself. And then if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. I can always use it for something else, but I just really liked adding these little textures and variations in color, and I actually really liked ultimately having the crayon texture on this page as well. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just having a lot of fun here. Once this was dry, I dried off camera, I actually went with some paints, and I thought I would take my brayer and I would just smoosh it down. I didn't love this, and the reason is because I put too much paint down, and it would have looked nice if it was just thinner lines. So if you were going to do this, just put a little bit less paint down, then it's not quite such thick lines. But once I did one, I was like, okay, well, I may as well just commit now. So I'm taking two colors. These are just like shimmery acrylic paints that we got in a kit maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And I just picked out two of my favorite colors. Both of these kind of have a multi-tone to it, and I just sort of smooshed it onto the page. Then I decided to go in with my Distress Oxides and some stencils, and I'm starting to do some ink blending to add a bit of fun patterns into this layer. Again, like I said, I wasn't really thinking too much about how it was going to look with my photos. I was thinking about the colors and about roughly the texture. I decided to add this leaf stencil, which I'd never used before, but the reason I use it is because in the photo there's this big plant behind me in all the photos, so I thought it would be really nice to have these leaves sticking out from behind the photos to kind of mimic that. At this point, I started to kind of think, okay, what am I going to do with this background? Because I often have this thing where if I make a busy background, I tend to just then freak out a little bit, and I discard it and I don't use it. So I was like, oh, this is starting to look very bright and happy, and the colors in the photo are a little bit more toned down. And so I was like, oh, I know what I'll add. I'll add red flowers. And then because of those Monstera leaves and because of these flowers that I'm adding on, it's starting to take on a big tropical vibe, especially with the yellows as well. So I was like, oh, okay, that's not really exactly what I wanted, but interesting. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go with it. So I'm actually really, really enjoying watching this come together as well because, yeah, I just really liked it. I decided to take this little stamp that I've got, just illegible writing, and I'm just plonking that down. As you can see, it's hard to explain, but I'm not really thinking about it too much. I'm just sort of putting the ink on, squishing it down, and then that's how it looks. I am doing blues, and then I'm going to go in here with some red as well. That one was very passionate and violent. And yeah, so I'm just going to continue doing that. And then I decided to add some paint because, like I said, I was just thinking, why not? I thought if I added some of this paint, some of these little splotches, it might tone down the tropicalness of this layout. I don't know if it did. In fact, I'm almost certain it just didn't. But yeah, I was having fun with it. I do like the texture that this creates actually. And I like how the layers you can just see all of these layers popping through in different like brightness and different contrasts. And I just really like that. Oh, and I'm just adding some white as well. So this is how I fix it. So I had a 12 by 12 piece of vellum that I'm just sticking over the top, and that is one of my favorite ways to tone down bright backgrounds on papers. Now, generally, I'm not the one that creates those backgrounds, but when I do, I like using vellum to just tone it down. I like this for two reasons. One, because it tones down the background, but two, it adds an extra layer and fogginess, and I just love how it looks. I also especially think vellum looks nice with the layouts that have to do with weddings, because often you will see vellum on wedding invitations. So I just think weddings and vellum go well together. So that's why I was glad I could finally use that 12 by 12 vellum paper, which I'm pretty sure we got in a Kitaholic Kits kit maybe 2 years ago. I have been hoarding it in my stash, so I'm glad I could use it. I did have little foam dots stuck on there in a very inconvenient place, so that's why I didn't use the whole thing previously, but I can cover that up using these photos. So while I've been chatting away, I have just backed some of these photos just on some white cardstock and then on some pattern paper, and then I'm going to prop them up with some foam tape to create an extra layer of dimension, because there's not enough dimension in this layout already. Haha. I am still a bit concerned at this point that the background is a bit intense, but once the photos are down and once I stick on the flowers from the die cuts, I'm happy with that. First off though, I am doing my title. So I thought a funny title would be let's get married ... again. And I gave myself a little giggle when I came up with that. But so I'm basically taking this alpha sheet, which we got in a kit last year, which I have gotten a lot of use of. As you can see, I've used this alpha a lot, which is very funny because the month that we actually got this kit, I was unwell and in bed, so I couldn't even create with it in the month that we got it, but I was able to ultimately use it on every project, I think, or at least once a month since then. So I really like it. I like the colors, how it's a bit more toned down and neutral, which is kind of what I needed at this point in time with this layout. I was like, it's very busy. I need some neutral colors. And that's exactly what I did. I also used these alpha that we got in this month's kit. And I said in my last video, how much I love that alpha because it's such a beautiful, bright white, an interesting font. It's tiny and you get so many letters and numbers, so many. So I am just doing my title there just on the right hand side. Let's get married again. And then I am adding just a little label from my stash, and now I'm going to start adding these clusters. And once I add these, like I was saying before, once I add these, the background really does tone itself down almost because they're not brighter necessarily, but because they are quite solid colors. These die cuts I'm talking about, by the way, because they're quite solid colors, they really do just push all of that like murky, smoky background colors way back, which is exactly what I wanted. So I was really happy with how that turned out. I am just creating these little clusters now. As I always do, I try to create 3 clusters, but I do at the end create a final little cluster down the bottom underneath my label because I thought it was a bit bland. But yeah, so as you can see, I'm doing some of the some of the clusters I am tucking in behind the photo, and then some of them I am propping up on top of the photos, which creates even more dimension. And that's one thing, if you look at this layout, you can just see all the dimension in this layout, which I wasn't necessarily planning, but it is very interesting to my eye. Now I'm adding just a few little sprinkly stickery dots bits from these that amazing sticker sheet that we got. And I really like the colors in that sticker sheet. I thought they were beautiful and I wanted to use it in basically every layout, which I think I did. Yes, I did. This is where I add those final little clusters down the bottom there. And just adding 3 little ones. Didn't want it to overpower, but I wanted there to be something there. I thought I might put a butterfly, but it was just way too big, so I'm sticking to that tiny little red one. And ultimately, it all looks quite matchy. Like they've got the neutrals from that couch, the deeper blues, the deeper teals, the bright hair, which matches with a lot of the background colors, all of that. And that layout is done now that I've added the date. Thank you very much for joining me. I did also add that little sticker of the sunnies there next to the gets in the title. But yeah, thank you for joining me, everyone. I'll see you all again next week for another project. Bye.